Hey, what's up guys? This is the Super Saiyan Prodigy 1221 here. Go ahead and call me Andres, or by my nickname Andy as well. Today I'll be talking about the pros and cons of running Dragoon in the Phantom Knights decks, as well as not running Dragoon in the Phantom Knights decks. I know, it sounds kinda crazy. Last format you kinda had to play Dragoon or else you would auto-lose to going second dinos when they dropped the Mystic Line on you. But I'm going to go into more about detail as to why not running Dragoon is very viable this format and how it might actually be better in some cases if you think about it in a different way. So the biggest issue with Dragoon is the bricks. If you run the common 40 card size deck list, you have a 50% chance of seeing one of your BA or Dragoon bricks. And I'm not making that up. You can look at this from a mathematical perspective. So the population size I have opened up here represents your deck size limit. Actually your deck size, sorry, I didn't mean to say limit there, but the number of successes represents the amount of the type of cards. This can be like your monster cards, hand traps, starters, etc. Sample size, it represents your opening hand, so maybe you can change this up if you want to play a going second deck and you want to test for 6 cards when you go second. And the number of successes is how many cards you're seeing. You want to calculate for how many times you want to see in your opening hand. We want to calculate to see what are the chances of at least seeing one brick in our opening hand. And as you can see, we have a 50% shot at seeing one of our bricks in our opening hands, which isn't very good. And then that's why a lot of players opt to run higher deck sizes to like 44 or 45. Let's just go 44, I guess. And then, so it does decrease by about 46 to 46% or so. So that's not bad. But let's say, for example, if you're running a pure build in which you want to run 43 cards, you have graphs here. Let's just say you run Scarm just for the hell of it. Brings it down to 30%, 31% actually, which is like 20% lower than like what you would have had if you played 40 card deck size with Dragoon, which is pretty good in my opinion. And then even if you just decided to not run Scarm and just run the standard Graph and Seer, be up to down to 22% actually, which is pretty good. So why does this matter exactly? Well, the issue with the Dragoon version of the deck is that, yeah, you play a higher deck count, but the issue with that is you're also decreasing the chances of seeing your starters, hand traps, extenders, etc. But if you're playing a more pure version without Dragoon, like in my example where I showed you with the 43 cards, you're going to see more consistency, and you're going to be able to see your starters, your hand traps, and your extenders a lot more. So basically, the more pure version of not running Dragoon is going to be way more consistent and be more, a little bit stronger, in my opinion, with your opening hands, because you're just not running that high amount of bricks. Okay, and then another one of the biggest pros of running Dragoon is that it's very strong this format as a boss monster. Last format, Dragon Link and Dinos could easily deal with Dragoon, but now that we are in a slower format, negating and destroying a key card of your opponent's combo is pretty good, like negating and destroying a Mu Beta Fafnir, a Transcode Talker, a Dark Templar in the Ignister matchup, a Romulus in the Dragon Link matchup so they can't search out the Dragon Ravine. Decks like Sky Striker also have a hard time getting over Dragoon since all their spell cards target. However, getting Dragoon out turn 1 can be kind of hard sometimes due to the massive amount of hand traps being played this format, since Verte Anaconda is vulnerable to things like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, and then decks are also running like 9 to 12 hand traps in their 40 card size decks this format, so they have a pretty good chance of seeing them in order to stop the Verte and make your bricks useless if you happen to draw into them in the grind game. Granted, Appaloosa or Evil Storm Nightmare is vulnerable, two of the same hand traps as well that I just mentioned in a non-Dragoon build of the deck, but it took you less resources and commitment to make them as opposed to Dragoon. A pro of not running Dragoon is that you have more extra deck diversity. You can run cards to help adapt to situations such as Evil Storm Nightmare for combo decks, or Time Thief Redoer for decks that don't inherently special summon a lot, control decks, and also since Evil Storm Nightmare can miss timing as well. I'll go more into detail about that though in a rulings video I'll make later. But you also have options such as with the Downer plus Zeus package as well. And Zeus is really strong in this format. We can see decks like Drytron even opting to play it just because it helps you establish really good board control, and you can also sit on a Fog Blade or two to keep your opponent from getting over the Zeus. And then also Pot of Prosperity is kind of more useful in a non-Dragoon deck if you ask me, because you play it in the Dragoon build of the deck, you're already playing a high deck count at that point alongside your 5 bricks, so you could end up excavating a brick or two instead of a key card to get your combo going. In a non-Dragoon build though, you run less bricks and a lower deck count, so you'll be able to see key cards more often to help you either establish or break a board. You don't OTK as much as the Dragoon build of the deck compared to the non-Dragoon build, so the downside of it only doing half damage isn't that big of a downside in the non-Dragoon build of the deck, since you're running mostly more of a Xyz Link Toolboxy type of build. Another benefit of not running Dragoon is that you leave yourself with better follow-up in my opinion. With the non-Dragoon build, you can usually end on an Evil Storm Nightmare with a Fog Blade or 2 set, or an Appaloosa with a Fog Blade or 2 set as well, which isn't bad, especially against decks like Dragon Link or Tri-Brigade. But it also leaves your Rusty Zone open, so you have the ability to pop a card if you need to during your opponent's turn, where if you do the full Dragoon Rusty plus Verte combo, you don't have any zones open until the Verte or Appaloosa gets removed from field, unless we were able to make an Appaloosa first, and then go into Rusty Bardiche. You see his arrows, so you have to have one arrow for Verte, one arrow for the Appaloosa, and then, like I said, you would have to make an early Appaloosa in order to have the option open to have the Rusty Pop Disruption combo during your opponent's turn. You also leave yourself with more cards in your extra deck to work with as a stronger follow-up if you're just going to sit on an Evil Swarm Nightmare or the Appaloosa. Your danger monsters are also stronger, and being able to use them a lot more in the non-Dragoon build as well, as you can freely use them to special summon from the hand if you really need to, where if you draw a Dragoon piece and a danger monster, it's hard to use their in-hand effects since you run the risk of your opponent discarding a Dragoon piece, or even if you don't have a piece, you run the risk of drawing into a piece if you decide to use the danger hand effects and end up drawing into one of your BA bricks or one of your Dragoon bricks. Where in the more pure build, you have the ability to set all your cards from your hand majority of the time and force your opponent to pick a danger monster in a hand so you can get the free special summon. Another pro and con of the non-Dragoon build of the deck is you can't argue that it doesn't have an Omni Negate. This isn't necessarily bad, as going second decks have seen a decrease in representation as it's hard to break a full Drytron board. You can see as going second decks like Dinos, Cyber Dragon, Grand Maju examples haven't been seeing very much success this format, so I don't think Dragoon is needed as much as last format because the only deck that plays Mystic Mine right now is Sky Striker, but most lists that are topping, like Ryan Yu or Gabriel Vargas, they don't even play Mystic Mine, but in a non-Dragoon build, you can main Imperial Order. Alongside that, you can search for it through your excavations with Pot of Prosperity, making your only real weakness trap cards. But trap cards have also seen a decrease in popularity compared to last format, so things like a Revolt and Appaloosa aren't bad to deal with as you have outs to them, like through your infinite impermanences, and then your side deck hate for twin twisters as well. So speaking of infinite impermanences, in a build without Dragoon, I feel you're able to run it. Since you're not running Shade Brigandine in that build, and in the Dragoon build, you want to run Shade because you want to turbo out the Dragoon as fast as possible. And Shade helps in turning itself into a Link Spider, so it becomes an effect monster, so you can at least make Birthday into Dragoon if it's your last line of play to do, and you weren't able to make an Appaloosa since you got hand-trapped a lot by your opponent. But Infinite Impermanence is really strong against Appaloosa, this format, other monsters such as Heretic Seal of Spears, or an IP Masquerade as well, currently this format. And it's good going second too against Tri-Brigade when they try to banish their monsters from the graveyard in order to special summon from the Axer deck, or making the Mu Beta Fafnir less useful since it won't be able to dump and it won't be able to use its Xyz materials to ritual summon. So now that I've gone over the pros and cons of a non-Dragoon versus a Dragoon build, I'll go ahead and show you guys some of Dinkabu's replays from the DCS where he got second in that tournament. I competed in that Swiss tournament as well, and I just bricked like 4 matches, 4 out of like my 7 rounds in Swiss, so I did terrible that tournament. So I played all the rounds though, so just to get the most experience. So I wasn't able to get all his replays from Swiss, but I can cover one from one of the Swiss rounds where one of my matches finished early, and his top 16 as well. His top 4 match and final matches are on the DB Grinders channel, and I don't want to get a copyright notice, so go to his channel if you want to check out those matches. So let me go ahead and channel in my inner DB Grinder personality. Let's go ahead. Alright, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try to impersonate him. Hello guys, the Super Saiyan Prodigy 1221 here, back at it again with another Dueling Book replay for you all. This will be featuring a Swiss round match from the DCS tournament, and remember to go ahead and check them out. I'll go ahead and link them below, down in the description, and let's get right to it. We have K0905, the PK player with no Dragoon in his deck with 100 rating, against PH Jude with 774 rating. And with that being said, let's hop right into this duel. We are going to see the PK player win the RPS. Looking at deck sizes, we see 41 versus 40. God, I hate to see it. Opening hands are Pot of Prosperity, Fogblade, Infinite Impermanence, Danger, Snake, E-Telly. On the Tri-Brigade player side, we got Pot of Desires, Nerval, Ash Blossom, Rescue Cat, and Psyframe Driver. Oh man, well, if this was a Gamma, it'd be a little bit better against this deck, but I don't think it'd be that bad though. I think he would still be able to play through it, but as you're going to see, we're going to see his Pot of Prosperity banishes. So, he plays double Cherubini actually, like no lie. He plays it right here. It makes sense for his banishes though, I get it, because his opponent, you can prevent your opponent from like putting up anything threatening in which you would need spot removal through your Appaloosa negates. So he has a lot of monster negates going for him, so he wouldn't be too worried about needing spot removal for them. You played this as an alternative to like, I think, like a Nightmare Phoenix, I think. I think he just wanted this to go into to like banish something from the graveyard. I mean, I don't really think it's needed, but I guess that's his call. But Nightmare Unicorn, Downer Magician, Access Code Talker, Cherubini, so he doesn't really feel he's going to need an LTK method because he's just going to be able to negate anything that his opponent tries to put up, which I agree with that. He goes ahead and grabs the Tour Guide. Yeah, I can kind of agree with that because even if his opponent were to drop Gamma on the Tour Guide, he'd be able to go E-Telly, set everything, then special summon out the Danger monster. So this here baits out like a hand trap like Effect Veiler, Infinite Impermanence or an Ash Blossom. And then here he's going to go ahead and dump gloves. I agree with this. He's playing a little bit cautiously, but I think it makes sense though with the amount of players main decking Nib this format. He wants to prematurely dump gloves, so then that way he can go. And in case his opponent drops a Nib on the Rusty Summon, he can go ahead and swap the right gloves out for a Fog Blade by using its effect to dump Fog Blade from the deck to the graveyard. He's going to use Danger and Hand effect. The reason why he does that is because he can't draw any cards by card effects the turn he activates it. It goes on back to what I was saying about how you can get away with the Danger Monster and Hand effects with this build even if you do draw the Pot of Prosperity, because you can pretty much set everything because you're not worried about the Dragoon bricks in this build of the deck or keeping cards in hand in order to have the negate for Dragoon. Okay, he's going to dump Torn Scales, tag out the gloves for a cloak, search out the boots. And then the only thing I would say here is that I kind of prefer linking off to the right side if I know that my opponent, if I know I'm going first. The reason for that is because linking to the right side is awkward for most decks, not really for the Fan Knight decks, because you don't really need to link summon a whole lot. You have your XC's plays to do as well. I think for heavier combo decks like maybe D-Link, it'll be awkward for them to link into the right side, and then also special summon out Evil Storm Nightmare to his zone that doesn't take up two cards in the column, like maybe have it in its own column to play around Mech Knights, but that's just my opinion though. And here he tries to get over the Evil Swarm Nightmare, but he's just going to go ahead and Fog Blade it. And then the reason why he's able to try to attack over it is because the Tenki is boosting the Fractale's attack. It's going to set Infinite Impermanence. He tries to use Rusty effect, but it gets Imperm. He's main decking Twin Twister, which is interesting. But that's also a little bit of a downside because it's just going to make the Fog Blade live in the graveyard. He's going to tribute summon for fucking Driver, but he has a Fog Blade in it, so he can pop the Driver. He's going to drop Droll, but that's not really going to matter. He's going to go ahead and special summon out Gloves, boost the Nightmare with Cloak's effect, and then just go ahead and attack for game. So you can go Rescue Cat, dump Fractal, dump Kuraz, search out the Kuraz, Tenki, search out Fractal. So it's good. He's doing all his searching, so then that way he doesn't banish too many bad cards off of Pot of Desires. And you're going to see he's going to banish for 3. Bring out the Omen, link all those away for a 3 material Appaloosa. Then this is a pretty decent board. He has 1 bounce, 3 monster negates, and the Artifact Sanctum to try to prevent the Dinkabu from using his extra deck. He's going to try to bait out the back row, but he does have the Forbidden Droplets. So you're about to see why the reason he doesn't negate the Appaloosa though, and why he got rid of Terror Top. So then he's going to go ahead and use the Fog Blade to bring out the Gloves. Now this is cool though, because the Gloves is going to be at 3000 attack, because it gets boosted by the Gloves. is going to go downward into Zeus, which is pretty good in my opinion, and establish some board control. If I were him, maybe I would have dumped the gloves and searched out the boots, so then that way I could have a fog blade set, so he wouldn't have been able to get out the omen, in my opinion. But that's just me. And either way, the Tri-Brigade player had too much resources in hand to break through a Zeus. It's gonna go Cherubini, dump. So he runs Skarm, which is interesting in my opinion. I've been testing it out, and I've been realizing about how useful it can be. Because let's say here, if he nibs him on the Rusty Summon, like let's just say he didn't have the gloves, right? He would at least have Torgai for a follow-up. Plus, it makes your Cherubini more live and makes it more expendable for link plays when the turn comes back to you. And I don't think Skarm is that bad either because it works as a decent discard fodder with your Torn skills as well. I need to experiment more with this deck, but I've just been getting my feet wet with Skarm. He didn't have the Gamma there. If he had Gamma, that would have been pretty bad. I think he would have lost that match, honestly, if he had Gamma. So, top 6 Pot of Prosperity, which is pretty good. He's going to banish Underworld Goddess, Rhapsody in Berserk, Axis Tucker, Appaloosa. These make sense. He mainly wants to go for a Zeus play, so that way he can establish board control. And then once he Fog Blades a Tri-Brigade monster, I'll go ahead and Zeus wipe the board again. So, pretty good play in my opinion. I can see why these extra deck monsters won't be so useful going second. He's going to go ahead and grab Tracker. This makes sense. He's gonna normal summon Torgai, special summon Seer from the hand, special summon out Tracker. He goes for Levier here because he wants to bait out the bounce from the double Dragon Lords. But the Seer is still gonna trigger because it was Xyz material and it's an if effect if sent to the graveyard. He's gonna bring back the very Rusty, the same Rusty that got bounced back from the double Dragon Lords. He's going to dump a Cloak, and then special summon out the Boots. Then re-establish board control through a Downard and Zeus combo. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that he brought back out the Cherubini so he can dump out the Ancient Cloak and then get Rusty to Xyz summon there. But now he re-established very good board control now. And this is why Fogblade is so useful, just negating the any Tri-Brigade monster they try to summon out and then banish. Once they banish for cost, just use Fogblade, they negate special summon from the extra deck. Yeah, he goes for one more dump, and then he's just going to try to wrap it up for game. I think the reason why he searched out Torn Scale specifically is because, let's see here, he has one Boots. Yeah, he only plays, if you look at his deck list, he only plays 2 Boots, surprisingly enough. I kind of like 3 Boots better in my opinion, but I have yet to test out 2 Boots. So that was one of his Swiss matches. Let me go and guys show you his top 16. He's playing against Sky Striker in this one. Oh, I forgot to enter my inner DV grinder. Alright, we got another Dueling Book replay for y'all. This will be featuring the top 16 match from the DCS turn. We have K0905, the PK player with no Dragoon in his deck with 100 rating going up against Mike Hawk Ismail with 551 rating. So this will be, looking at the deck, I don't know why I said this will be. We see 41 versus 40. Gotta hate to see it. Opening hands are Boots, Rhoda, Gloves, Droplet, Infinite Impermanence. Opponents got Ego Booster, Double Ray, Pot of Desires, and Afterburner. So it's going to be an interesting matchup because Sky Striker is a little bit tough without Dragoon in your deck because Dragoon is just so strong because the Sky Striker cards all target except for like Rose. He's going to search out the Torn Scales. Yep, so he dumps the Gloves, which is good because you can do that to play around Nib. Because let's say if they affect Valor, Ash, or Infinite Permanence, the Torrent Scales, you still got at least a card in there. It's a banished once you bring out the Rusty, so in case they do nib you there, you can bring back the Rusty out to get its effect off. Here I'm not too sure why he just didn't. Wait, no, he already special summoned out the Boots earlier. Got it. Yep, it's gonna go Break, Start, Pop, bring out the Time Thief Redoer, which is gonna have 3,400 attack because the Gloves boost a Dark Xyz monster when it has a Xyz material underneath it. Then he's going to go ahead and set Droplets at Fogblade. So let's see, so he grabs off of Time Thief Redoer effect a Ghost Spell card. Not bad. So with his board he has 1, 2, 3, 4 interruptions and then a possible fifth one with the Wings Fogblade, bringing back up the Break Sword to pop a card. His opponent's gonna have double Twin Twister. So yeah, so his opponent's gonna go pop it, then his opponent's gonna go bring back out the Ray. But it can't get over the 2000 Break Sword and 2001 Rusty, 2100, sorry. Goes ahead and grabs an Ash Blossom with Time Thief Redoer effect. Chooses not to Infinite Impermanence the Rusty Bardiche. Interesting. I think that mistake here kind of costs him because Rusty is a +2, and I mean, it's a pretty big card advantage in my opinion not to negate. Then he's gonna discard the, detach the Seer specifically so he can bring back out the Cherubini. Because he's gonna go for Underworld or Unicorn first to try to get rid of Backworld. Then use Rusty to try to pop his back row to bait it out. Then here he's going to go for the Access Code Talker for the OTK. And then Underworld Goddess, so that way the Ray can't trigger. So pretty well played right there by the PK player. So then Skyrim also helps in trying to unbrick Graph as well, since they're just free special summons. Then he's going to use it to bring out Seer. His opponent's going to go ahead and drop Nib on him. That's not so bad though, because he has Pot of Prosperity and oops, and it gets Ash Blossom. Let me go ahead and dump the multi-roll, bust out the Shizuku, use multi-rolls effect to go ahead and set Sky Striker cards equal to the number of spell cards they activated this turn. Which isn't too crazy. He does get to special summon out the snake from his deck. Share beating dumps for cost, which is good. Then Torrent Scales is going to try to trigger since it works if any Fan Knight's monster is banished, and they're just going to go ahead and scoop right there. The Sky Striker is just going to get their engine rolling, and once they get multi-roll rolling and then just start using a bunch of Sky Striker cards, it's pretty much over at that point. It's going to go ahead and dump. I love pitching the Torrent Scales he had in hand. Damn, double Torrent Scales. God, I hate to see it. He's going to dump Graph, bring out the Scarm, so he has good follow-up next turn. So that's good. I didn't go for the Seer because they would have Nib anyway. So that's why I'm thinking about playing Scarm instead. So it's not that big hard of a hit. If I get nibbed on the Rusty Summon. So he prematurely uses Ghost Spell here, I guess thinking that it's special summons, but he's going to tag out the gloves for a Fog Blade, so he can go ahead and try to target the Rusty. He's going to Ghost Spell that, but bring out the Torrent Scales. Gonna special summon out the Torrent Scales, or no, the Danger Monster, go into Break Sword, pop the Nibiru, go into Time Thief for Doer, and pass from there. So his opponent doesn't have a way to get to the Sky Striker monster yet. He would have to rely on the Upstart Goblin and Pot of Desires to get him there. Then he's gonna get rid of the Time Thief for Doer right away. Not too sure what he was trying to play around there. I guess maybe like a possible triple Tactics Talents maybe, but usually it's just a bunch of blind second cards though, but maybe. And then the Sky Striker player still doesn't have a way to get to a Sky Striker monster, so he steals from him a Shark Cannon. That's pretty decent. Draw power is pretty good in this version of the deck once you get through all the bricks. And right now his only brick he has in the deck is a Seer. He's going to dump a Cloak, try to banish it with the Shark Cannon, but that's just going to trigger Torrent Scales though. And he doesn't want to overcommit because he doesn't want to fall hard to another potential Nibiru, because he's going to draw a card from here. Dump the boots into the graveyard to search out a Fog Blade, just as for some extra insurance, and now he top decks his Sky Striker monster. He stole the Engage from him. That's pretty good. So then now they have to try to use Kagari to try to bring it back, and then now they got another plus, but fortunately he does have the Ash Blossom for it though. Now he's going to use both of his monsters from the graveyard to the Fog Blade and the Wings. They're both hard ones per turn, so he's going to special summon out both of these so he can pop some of his cards in the back row. Definitely doesn't want to pop the Shizuku because Ray's just going to trigger and special summon out another Link monster. And he top decks Terratop right here. Didn't use Ray's effect to get back the Kagari, but it doesn't matter because he's going to put out enough damage on board at this point, and you can only trigger Ray once per turn, so he didn't really have anything else to go into. guess maybe a Zeke could have helped. Or no, actually a Zeke wouldn't help because you need two monsters to go into Zeke. But yeah, so I guess a little bit lucky on that last game 3 because the Sky Striker player didn't draw into any Sky Striker monsters to start link summoning into. But he played that game 1 very well in my opinion. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out this guy's more matches, they're on the DB Grinders channel. But speaking of the tournament overall that he performed well in, you can see that this guy is a former LCS top player. He's gotten top cut there before. I don't know about this guy. This guy I saw on DB Grinders channel where he played against Addingnister, I believe. This guy is top before in LCS. Jabriel is pretty big name. Seen him a couple times in like Ironmans and money matches on the DB Grinder channel. Ryan Yu, pretty well known player in the competitive scene. Toast, I've seen him on Dueling Book a couple times. He's a fairly high rated player. Nesh is like the biggest high rated player I think right now on Dueling Book. Probably one of the best online players, honestly. He doesn't play in real life, but he's still very good at the game. And this guy got 4th place, or top 4 in the LCS as well. But as you can see here, that even though it was a smaller tournament, the quality of players was very good. So it's pretty surprising that he was able to perform well without Dragoon, but after looking at the format and me doing this analyzation video, I can see now why he was very successful. But yeah, so in reality, Dragoon isn't that needed as much as it was last format, my personal opinion. You can do fine without Dragoon. You just have to be a little bit more careful with your plays. You have to be more precise in what you're going to negate with Fogblade and what you're going to negate with your Appaloosa negates as well. And your technical play is really going to have to be good since you don't have Dragoon for protection. That's something hard for most decks to have to work around to get over. But with that being said, this is a Super Saiyan Prodigy 1221. Peace, signing off.